also another thing is the impact of outside forces. Because that's the other aspect of, we don't live in a Gambian economy, we live in a global economy.
Yeah.
Where's Gambia's place in that global economy? Where do we get our food? Like, what do we export for us to be able to import and be able to sustain ourselves as a country?
Right.
Like, there's all these different factors where, if we're being real, our government doesn't have as many resources and doesn't have enough revenue streams to actually do everything that needs to be done.
Right.
The thing that's frustrating is that a lot of us don't think they're doing what can be done. But alternatively, I just want to add one more point, is that, but the really subjective part is that, what can be done? I don't know fully what the context of the government is. And I try to read around this area to try and understand what the context is. So the average Gambian is very difficult for like someone who, they understand the country, they understand the forces, the fact is like, go sit at a campaign, someone will break down everything that's going on in the country for you. It's really good. But I just feel like when it comes to the relation of the government to the world, the government's context, the loans that we have, and the why we have those loans, the interest payments, like all of these different things that are actually, shackling us in our development. These need to be looked at. Like one of the big criticisms that happened in the 80s, for example, Nigeria was a thriving place during the 60s, 70s, and structural adjustment came about in the 80s and they crippled the economy. And they weren't able to invest anymore. So then it's easy to blame the government, but then it's difficult when you look at the forces that they have to deal with. Because in the same way, I'm talking about the people who are, marginalized by society, are dealing with forces that they can't control. Gambia, in the context of the world, how do you think the bigger metropolitan countries receive us? Are we the person who has the privilege, or are we the marginalized? We're the marginalized. Right. So our government, in the context of the global geopolitical landscape, is not like, it's almost similar to that,
That would be,
and then it trickles down to us. And I know it's just
exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say. That would be trying to look at it from the government's point of view, right?
But I think for a discussion like this, where we're
what I'm saying is, like, me and you were aware, and I think it's important to just know a little bit about global politics, on how it's impacting Gambia as a whole, and where sometimes there are certain things the government's hands are just tied. They can't really do anything about it, right? Like price control, like the way prices are, for example.
That needs to just be done.
And I think people need to really, really pay attention on what's going on in the world. It's going to make it easier for us to understand. There are certain things Gambia just don't have any control over. Like shipping has been, it's more expensive. Prices of goods have gone up. Right,
it's 3,000% or something.
Yeah, it's now taking way longer for us to get our goods, and it's more expensive. You don't expect the same shopkeeper to sell the same kind of milk for the same price when he's getting it from his supplier for higher price, and the supplier is getting it from somewhere else for a higher price, right? But I guess what the role of the government there is just to facilitate and make sure they have some kind of control for the benefit of the masses, for the benefit of the individual that is actually buying this, right? To put into consideration that our economy is shit, right? The average Gambian income is nonsense. You can't really survive on that.
Facts.
And we are still a communal society, whereas we still have, if things are tough, I can just call Stunner and be like, boy, man, you're tough there, boy, and you just give it, and you're not expecting anything back because you understand
the situation, the circumstances.
That's a nice thing that we still have, but at the end of the day,
how long can that last?
It's not lasting the next generation.
How long can that last?
But then the question I had though for you was like, what resources don't we have? That's a question we need to ask ourselves as well, because I feel like we underestimate ourselves in a way, or underestimate
what resources do we have.
I think this is
what do we have?
No, okay. I think this is
before we start what we don't have.
What do
we have?
Okay.
No, but I think what the better question with that is, what resources don't we have that we need? Because the difference between what we need and what we want.
Okay, so
those are three questions.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
If we are going through what we're going through now, first of all, for us to do better, we need to know what we have.
Exactly.
Right? If you're trying to budget, you need to first of all know your income.
Facts.
And then you have to,
know your resources. Yeah.
Exactly. So what resources do we have?
Okay.
First of all.
Okay. In my opinion, if we're gonna look at it from a general perspective, bro, like in terms of resources, like let's start from natural resources. We have a blessed soil. Our soil is blessed. Like we have land. You know what I mean? We have fertile soil and everything. we have sun. Like our sun is like, it's like when it shines, you know? Like all of these solar energy, like hydroelectric energy, like our water, our waves are strong on all of these things. Like, so I feel like sometimes when we're like having all of these problems like that we're all facing and all drowning in, it's sort of like clouding us from like actually sitting back to look at the solutions.
Yeah.
Well, let's say even from that. So we have the sun, we have the water, for example, we have the manpower, we have the labor, we have, you know, like, let's say, for example, arable land. Like we have a lot of like sort of accessible land where we can sort of like use that in order to generate a lot of things we need, or a lot of things that can help us in a way or in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like let's say we talk about import and export. So what do we have that sort of like was sort of like mostly known for in like the import and export market? I'll say, for example, it's like what, groundnut?
Yeah.
Groundnut and what else? Like, you know.
Yeah, I think at one point 95% of our GDP was based on groundnuts.
Groundnut, and I think timber as well.
Yeah, timber.
Yeah.
But I think we are deforesting a lot with the timber.
Yeah.
And when it comes to groundnuts, I think from what I've heard is that, what I've been told is that during the Industrial Revolution, the groundnuts were being used to lubricate the factories.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, it was a valuable and useful commodity.
Yeah.
The reason why that's not as lucrative now is the fact that it's a cheap resource, raw material.
Yeah.
For like, no raw material, but like it's a cheap thing for like, if a company buys it, they want to process it, they add value to it, and then we're, you know, buying it back.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you buy those pistachio packets and stuff like that, we're buying it back for way more than whoever farmed it, sold it to those people.
That's my point.
And I think, it's like you mentioned, like we have a lot of resources.
Exactly.
Right.
But so and when I the reason why I say for the resources, like even when I look at our the resources we need, it's like the type of country Gambia is or whatever. Yes, like because some other countries or whatever, they have maybe more resources that is more like, you know, lucrative in a way. Maybe they have diamonds or whatever in the soil or whatever. But then looking at Gambia as a whole, in my opinion, I'd say with the resources we have, like we'll say with the sun, with the land and this and that or whatever, we can sort of marginalize that in a way that it can be able to solve our own problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Like in my opinion.
I completely
I think-
agree.
I think the only issue with that is that, and I'm with you in it, but like with every resource that we have, there's some negative side of it. Like with global warming, it's getting hotter. And I think by 2030 is predicted that that's going to impact the crop yields. So how well the crops grow.
Look,
so that's about.
I am with you with that on the data, right?
Yeah.
But one thing, environmental issues, they've been talking about this for the longest time, right?
Exactly.
If it's not global warming, is something. If it's not that, it's something else, right?
How long is a long time?
What, 20, 30 years, 40 years?
Yeah, but 20,
Right.
30, 40 years.
What
is
I'm trying to say is, right, if you're saying by 2030, right, me sitting down, I'm gonna be like, oh shit, this is scary. If I get into this business by 2030, I need to think about something else.
Oh, no.
Right?
No, you
No.
need to think about a more innovative way of doing it. Agriculture can
That's
be
not how
done
the
in a way.
average. So what I'm trying to say is,
okay, I understand that's not how the average person looks at it, but we're speaking about it in right here to a point where the average person can see it. The point isn't that you have to give up because something is difficult.
Look, even if you tell people, there's not a lot of people that see too far. They're just incapable of seeing too far.
No, I think it's not incapable. Like, if I'm capable of seeing far, anyone is capable of seeing it. It's like they don't think they're capable of seeing far. So the point is that to put out a message that it's possible to look and plan for your life 5 years ahead, to plan 10 years ahead, and even as a country, plan 100 years ahead. How can we dig ourselves and get better and develop and move forward? You know, I think it's about how we look at things. I understand there's a lot of pessimism about everything, and some people see a problem and it makes them shut down. But from my perspective, I would like to say, okay, 2030 is coming. This is happening. It doesn't mean give up. It means be innovative. Think about that in the back of your mind. Use that as extra context in how you approach that situation.
It's hard to put that argument to someone that is just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Right?
Or like the average Gambian.
They're
To
not
have the
re-
average Gambian maybe
They are not even
think like
interested
that
in
or see it from that perspective.
Exactly, because they're just too hungry to
Thank
even
you.
entertain conversations like that. It's like for them, boy, I'm about 2030, boy, man, I'm gonna chop. Understand that?
No, but then
Jilena for your head.
No,
Man, understand enough more. And the
but
example that I want to
I just
give.
want to say the 2030, like you said, if your response to it was that if someone wants to get into agriculture today, they know that by 2030 they have to do something else. That's not what I'm saying. They can get into agriculture today, do what they're doing, and grow in the next 6 years. And by the time 2030 comes, they're prepared for it in some way, shape, or form. And they can now, from what they've learned from the 6 years, then tackle that. So it doesn't mean that like they don't do what they have to do today. With everything you have to build, you have to start from a small place and then you grow it. So even wherever you may be, it's not to say that, oh yeah, as someone who, the average Gambian, they have to just do the most groundbreaking thing in the world. Start small, learn, do a pilot, understand your context, but be aware of the context.
True.
I shouldn't say to someone that 2030 this is happening and not tell them that, and then they're completely unaware of it. And when 2030 comes, then they not really had the mindset of, yo, like there's something that I need to be preparing for and adjusting for, and that comes before the better guy.
Look, I am with you. What I'm trying to say is, I'm just trying to connect an example that you gave and what Stunner was saying, and there's a lot of resources already, right? And there's a lot of manpower. And you, at some point, what you did was you saw the roads were bad and you took initiative. You were not preaching, telling them, if we don't fix this in like 5 years, this road will be unusable. You actually took initiative, right? And people saw that and they connected with that. People usually connect with action, right? They don't really connect with data when you're predicting the future. They're not really, I think it's almost like a default setting, because if we're all capable of just being able to plan 10, 20 years ahead, I don't think we'd have the kind of communities that we have.
Because just to add to that, yeah, not to cut both of you off, but I think just to add to that, it's like we're overestimating what we can achieve from now until 2030 and underestimating what we can achieve within a year, bro. By the end of this 2024, if we sort of like marginalize all of these resources and this and that or whatever, because I get what you mean. It's like you're looking at it from like a Gambian's perspective as well as like from a outside.
You're looking at it from an empirical point of view. Like you just
I think I'm combining different factors, because I like to properly understand something. So you have to look at all the forces that are at play.
I'm on ground, right? I'm on ground,
and I'm looking at it from a Gambian's ground, yeah.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not really saying that like Gambians shouldn't get into agriculture or anything like that. My point is just that with every resource that we have, there's something that's holding it back, and that's not to say that it's a what's that called? It's a roadblock. Now it's just something that we need to be aware of, as something that we need to go forward. So I'm just saying that it's not as easy as that, but for our people, they need to just be aware of, okay, this is what we have, but also this is what can impact that. So it's not just a free resource that you can just completely extract from. We need to try and solve problems that don't exist yet. The way to...
What about our current problems?
No, of course, but I'm not saying we should ignore our current problems. I'm not saying one thing doesn't ignore the other. Like, I'm saying it in light of understanding that other aspect. We have to solve our current problems. That's beside the point. But our future problems are connected to our current problems. That's the thing. And we need to be building small, but also with the context of knowing that, okay, cool, like, yo, this happening right now. We can enjoy the sun for the next X amount of years, but when it gets X amount of degrees hotter, something's gonna happen. How can we build our structure now for it to prepare for that? And I know it's going to a certain direction, but like, just generally, like what you're saying, these are our resources, right? But I think when it comes to manpower and land, we do have one of the smallest populations around, and we do have one of the smallest land. Like, we need to contextualize ourselves.
So that's comparing us to the global scale, but from the Gambian point, like just for self-sustainability, right? We have more than enough. We would have surplus to actually put outside to bring income, right? So it's when we say we're the smallest country in Africa, is yes, we are comparing ourselves to other African countries, but at the end of the day, it's about self-sustainability. And I feel like a lot of these data that we put into these conversations, our intentions are to raise awareness, like to make people see 10, 20 years down the line, but sometimes it's doing a little bit more harm, because you need to remember we are on survival mode.
Facts.
Right? Once people are on survival mode, they want solutions now. They don't care about if I start farming here 5 years later, because of my farming now, it's going to have a bigger impact. They don't care about that, right?
Yeah. They just figure it out after 5 years.
Figure it out.
You know what I'm saying?
They need
like,
to eat first. When I'm well fed, I can really sit down and think about.
If in 5 years, and I'm not going away from this, but like when it comes to how we think about our development and our progress, and we like to our progression as a people and as a country, we can't always try and look at immediacy. Like immediate gratification is great, and solving what's going on at this very moment is great. But if you don't solve what's going on in the future, it doesn't work, because
this is where we need good leadership.
No, I understand. Right? But with good leadership comes foresight. Like, you know what I mean? And then now we can't say that we're only focusing on the immediate.
So what I was trying to say is, like, the example that I was trying to bring, which you took initiative and did, and you saw the road was bad. People were camping. They've always camped there, from my understanding of what you're saying.
Yeah.
There've always people been around, but nobody took the initiative to do that, right? And you understood that, okay, this has been like this. It's been bad. It's not going to change unless someone do something about it. And if someone does nothing about it, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
And you do something about it. You fix the immediate problem, and you've seen down the line. You fix it now could actually solve another problem down the line.
Yeah.
You're able to see multiple moves.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's true. And in the way I did it, I also thought about it now. That the fact that the water is going to come.
But not everybody's thinking about that.
But it's not about how everyone is thinking. It's about how everyone should think.
Okay.
And it's about, and you know what? And when it comes to platforms like these, when we're discussing, the point isn't to regurgitate what we know to be what it is. It's contextualizing that and bringing about a new perspective. That's the point of free thinking. It's not to be stuck in how you're thinking. And from your, because I think free thinking has a certain connotation. Just if we're looking at it like just plainly that. And we need to like have a conversation where I understand the needs that of today need to be met. Yeah. They need to be met. We understand that. But the thing is, if we aren't looking at gradually building and solving problems that haven't happened, we'll be in the same position tomorrow if we only focus on today. It's all of us. If I don't plan for tomorrow, and I'm just like thinking about today, I'm not prepared for what's happening tomorrow. And we should. I understand that like the situation isn't one where we can sacrifice today for tomorrow. Yeah. But doesn't involve that. When I was talking about agriculture, there's no sacrificing of today involved. I never said nobody should go. I just explained a simple point that even with the sun, it's gonna get hotter in a few years. My going after that was that we need to be working to, cultivate our agricultural landscape at the moment, but we need to prepare for the future as well.
Yeah, but at the same time, just to add to that, you gave an example, like, let's say, in order do we need to prepare for tomorrow, like in terms of like there's something you said in terms of that context or whatever.
Yeah.
But then I just thought about it that way. So basically, we need to think about the future, right? In terms of how we going about ourselves or our day or whatever. So let's say right now we're in today, but then we're thinking about tomorrow. We're considering tomorrow, but then. Let's say, for example, our current situation right now is still effed up, that what we're going through today is most likely what we're going to go through tomorrow and the day before, or the day after that, because it's our reality. So by us sort of thinking about tomorrow or the day after.
It's a privilege thing.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But then it's like, it's going to be our same reality. However, let's say, so we have today now. So if we look at today as a whole, so boom, today that's 24 hours in today's day, right? So let's say, how do we solve this problem today? So by us solving our today's problem, in a way, it can make our tomorrow better as well. Because that means tomorrow we don't have to wake up with today's problem. Do you get? So even the thing you're saying is correct. It's like, but that's one point. That's why I mean it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
Because the same way all three of us are sat here, all three of us have a different way of thinking. Even though we're all Gambian.
No, you're right.
You know what I'm trying to say? But then again, like, through our conversation, we're having different perspectives, right? But then we're always going to come to a point where we'd all agree with a certain idea or a certain conversation, which would mean that we're all now on the same we're all sort of like on the same perspective, like on the same wavelength in a way.
Is that we're not arguing against each other. We're having a conversation to come to a truth, a common truth, or an understanding. But I'm with you on that. And when it comes to like individual, like for my everyday life thing, but when we're talking about agriculture and what we need to do as an entire nation, there's the government, there's organizations, there's like, we're not going to, not one person is gonna, I mean, it could happen in a monopoly, but I'm just mean like, no one person is not going to solve the agriculture, not going to cultivate agriculture in Gambia. There's some form of direction. We don't have a nation that is stateless. We have a state, we have a government, and there are people that work on the ground, and they do the granular tasks. Like you're the one harvesting, you're the one watering, you're the one doing this when it comes to agriculture. And then there's the ones that coordinate. What I said about 2030 is just about the coordinating perspective. And then there's the perspective of people who are actually getting involved, like using their hands. And these things one doesn't take away from the other. We were just talking about resources, and resources was a national. We're talking about like what we have as a whole. And I just mentioned that even with solar, I thought about solar. I was like, and I spoke to someone about it who sells solar. He was like, some solar panels in really hot environments, they don't work because solar doesn't get energy from heat. It gets energy from light. You know, and with every benefit that we have, there's some sort of drawback, and that's what I'm saying. And it's not to dampen where we are. This is everywhere. Every resource has a positive and a con. That's with life. Every person has a good as a bad. You know, it's just there's duality in everything.
Right.
And that wasn't me to divert to say I'm an optimist. I'm a person that thinks Gambia is gonna be in X place in 20 years. We, the Gambian youth, from what I've seen, we're industrious. We're doing so many things around the world. We can be innovative.
Agreed.
We can solve some of our problems that are coming in the future before they arrive.
Right.
And like we mentioned earlier, there's the home-based Gambian and there's the diasporans. There's a home-based Gambians who they maybe not everyone, because Gambia in itself is a nation of its own. Like, you know, there's people who are doing really well here, and there's people who aren't. For the people who aren't, they can't.
Sorry guys, you need to toilet break quickly.
Cool.
But bro, I don't want to post now. Continue.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
And there's the people who aren't, you know, they don't have the luxury to defer their gratification. If they don't get money today or they don't do what they need to today, they're not gonna be here tomorrow to even worry about it. You know, and there's that side, and I'm completely with that. But like if we're talking about a nation as a whole, we have more resources than just that. We have more experiences than just that. And we have people, like so many people, like for example yourself, we were talking about your studio earlier and what you've been able to do for yourself, from, you mentioned coming, like selling water, to being able to do all of this. You know what you know, it happens. And we have people who are able to, who have that privilege to think about the future. The problem is to think about tomorrow, but the problem is that those people are privileged in a sense that they don't have to think about the future for everyone. They can think about their future, you know? And I think collectively we need to do a lot to change our mindset about how we look at everything, because I think even people who look at Gambia as like a lost place, or all of these different things, shouldn't be the case. We need to look at our country as some place that can be like anywhere else in the world.
I completely agree. I had a conversation, the last episode we had here was with Immortal X. I don't know if you've seen that episode.
X? No, I haven't seen that.
Aliu.
And heard of him. Actually, I've heard of that name before.
So we're on the topic of like prerequisites of free thinking. Like what should
Was he wearing a black T-shirt during his episode?
I'm not sure.
I've seen quite a few. I think it was him.
Yeah, he was wearing a black T-shirt with some African print,
some red and white.
Yeah, him exactly. And I'm not quoting him. I'm just paraphrasing. But we did agree, or he did propose that free thinking should be based, the foundation of free thinking should be knowledge, right? You need to be aware, you need to know, just accumulate as much information as possible. And I think the more you've traveled, the more knowledge.
Sorry, I want to add to that. I feel like the foundation of free thinking is two things. Is the sound is coming from outside, I believe. I can hear it here. Yeah, I think the door isn't closed. That's why. So the foundation of free thinking is knowledge, but knowledge is you think to acquire knowledge. You know. So I think the foundation is curiosity and openness. In order to think freely, you have to be curious. You have to be able to open your perspective in order to open yourself to different perspectives, so that you can actually allow yourself to think in different ways.
Yeah, but it still comes back to knowledge, right? You can only have so many different perspectives depending on the information you've accumulated, right? And the more information you've accumulated, the more places you've seen, the more people you've interacted with, the more experience that you have, the more you've traveled, the more your perspectives widen.
And I'm with you. And it's the accumulation part. Because knowledge doesn't acquire itself. the accumulation part comes from curiosity.
And that's what he was saying. Like you're talking about how to acquire knowledge, right? So basically the foundation of acquiring knowledge would be to be curious about things and just be open and wanting to know more. Just the hunger to know more.
Yeah.
So we're talking about just the on knowledge part, but if we're talking about free thinking, right? You can only think freely. It depends on how much you know, right? I can think freely as much as I want, but if my knowledge is just say Serakunda, I can't think beyond Serakunda. I can't think about solutions beyond Serakunda.
Because we talked about applicability earlier. You can apply your environment to different ones. The thing about free thinking is that it's your perspective and how you think. It's a process, not like a knowledge based kind of thing.
Objective.
Not knowledge based in the sense that the knowledge. If thinking was based on the knowledge that I have, then I would apply that to new information. And that doesn't always allow you to think freely because you're keeping yourself within your perspective. And thinking freely involves a lot of like curiosity and openness. And I say that because that's where you are able to interact with new information and you can sort of understand that in a way that's like understand that in a way where you can sort of think. I think I'm trying to think. Yeah. So I know I'm not like going behind that. It's just with him. I agree with what he said. Knowledge is very important. We need to acquire knowledge, and we need to foster curiosity, openness, and we need to be, what's the word? Like you mentioned earlier about not thinking that Kenakula dictarek, he's looking down on you or thinking that you don't know something.
Yeah.
Being, what's the word?
Just don't take everything personal.
Yeah,
right?
like or defensive in a way.
Yeah, defensive. That was what it was. Yeah.
Not everything is not about you. And sometimes we do project our own feelings on people like this, because when someone is coming from outside and they're speaking a certain way, they're dressed in a certain way, and they're buying certain things that you can't really afford. It's just an expression of how you feel. It's like this person has more than me, and you don't know how to process that feeling, right? And sometimes it's easier to just attack.
Exactly.
Be like, you're looking down upon me.
Sure.
Right? But it's not really about the person. It's about how you really feel inside.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of lacking.
Yeah.
Like you look at the other person, mom, get them out when you sound, out mom, they believe money grows on trees. So there's that feeling of just being restricted.
Relative deprivation. Yeah, it's like how you feel deprived compared to someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's something hard to process, especially if you're not really
like with the internet. I think social media, you mentioned it earlier.
So social media has a lot to do with how people are perceiving things now and their ambitions and a lot of things. But just to come back to the point, I think most of our problems, we have to be proactive. We have to actually take initiative to do something about 100%. It. And Jeff Bezos said it's 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. We can talk about all the problems all night long, but if we don't do something about it, it's just going to be there, right? Like the Yonbo fix. If you didn't do anything about it, you can talk about it all you want. You can literally stand there and be like, you and me dafa bon, and you and be so with dafa bon.
Yeah, it's about perseverance, and honestly, it's one of those things where, like you mentioned, it's difficult for a lot of people who are in the situation to understand what's the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think we as a people, like, we just need to do more with building a certain culture. We need to direct our culture more.
Right.
Because I think there's a lot of effort put into maintaining what our social dynamics are and how our culture is, and not a lot of effort put into how we direct our culture to a way that's more beneficial for the whole. Right. Because the world is changing in ways that we can't control. Like, for example, social media, it kicked off in America, the UK, these places, because they created it fit their societies in ways that made it work. Social media works well because of the fact that people migrate really far to different places. They're very individualistic, so you're not talking to all your neighbors that you live around, so it's good to connect with people that live far away. Right. Whereas here for us, if someone moves, they're gonna go say hi to their neighbor. They become friends to a certain degree depending on where you live. And I know that's changing, but we need to look at how things that weren't really designed specifically for us are impacting us, and look at ways of how we can sort of cultivate that and make that work for us. And I think there's there's a lot of work to be done in that regard. And the government, like you mentioned, leadership.
Yeah. It all comes down to leadership. And leadership doesn't just stop at government level.
Yeah, it starts from even...
Exactly. And this is why I said the diaspora do have a big role to play. Look, all they are sending is helping families, which is, I'm sure it's really appreciated, is fixing a lot of issues, but that is not enough. And what I mean by that is not enough, it's not sustainable. You can't keep sending money back home all the time to fix their problems. Then they want to like Jagne,
thank you very much. I was just about to say that, because let's say if that medium was to stop hunger, but they get sent from out to fee. Then what other option do people have? So if you're hunger, maybe you're already used to that. Maybe you're used to like, last send baha for like 5 years or whatever. You're already used to that. So
they become entitled to it.
Thank you very much.
They become entitled to that.
So then it sort of like affects us in a way where they didn't have closer man with they made that drive pulling a hamne hall at cool. When you don't see nothing, when there's nothing on the table or whatever, you start like thinking of ways to get it. Hence why you're there when you have hall, don't could make them could legend, because the legend be is all like cracking your brain trying to find different things or whatever. So it's like so it's like depending on whatever you're doing, you're expecting like to get a sort of income or wage from it. But then again, not realizing the process in which you're doing that to get that overtime. It has to be, it's important, because if you're doing that and that's bringing food on the table or whatever, you continue doing that, eventually that's going to bring like a car on the table. Eventually that's going to put a house on the table. And if I'm with mine, so it's like just also getting that discipline in order to once we realize what our problems are and realize what the solution is, once we start working towards the solution, you'd like that discipline or whatever, because like I said, come you Gambian, depending on let's say you say diaspora be only that's why I have like, and that's why even when you talk the money over digger, because when you say like you're thinking from like an optimistic point of view, but then again let's say optimistic, but then on this side we're a realistic point of view, like a realist. So the realist now come on hold and leg your feet on the ground every day and say and say falano or whatever. Come like okay, optimism more okay, call her better days ahead. Young man, okay, maybe next 5 years, next 10 years or whatever, tap that. Where realists become hunger. Young say you tap hamgane uyima come so if you can ninga most likely sanad be like so in order for like pull sanad be pull money, you gotta make sure they hunger like you're working for it from the morning in a way. So it's like continuously applying that method in terms of like your day to day. Eventually it's gonna be like a day to day through the week to week. Eventually it's gonna be a routine. Eventually it can guarantee they hamga come. Maybe young done broadened projects in the next 5-10 years or whatever, they're gonna achieve a lot within like half of that, because of hamga like perspective be changed now, initiative be changed now. Come hamga rather than young ko yakare come pulmonio or whatever. You're like, alright, cool. I'm mansi problem be yagana see nega. It's not neko this legana start. It's been 5 years ago, 10 years ago. From when we're growing
generational.
Up, you feel me? From when we're growing up, hamga like similar problems we're facing growing up at time in school or whatever. Even though right now you game or whatever, why chaban in the compente come certain problems new for still, or I'm not like in a problem you have to come in there when it been a problem, then end of city or one solution time it makes
there's always a root to a problem.
You feel me?
Trace it down to one particular issue that was not addressed. And that multiplies into exponential points. So I guess Gambia there's two communities. There's the diasporan community and there's the Gambian community. And fortunately the diasporan Gambians have access to more knowledge. It's first hand. It's like we are trying to get to where the UK is, or try to get to where some of these developed countries are. The good part of these developed countries. There's a lot of issues too, but at the end of the day, their issues compared to our issues, it's different. There's different levels of issues, right? And in terms of like the population as a whole, most of the population is poor. You can't say the same thing for the West, right? A lot of people can just afford to live a basic life. A lot of people here can't. A lot of people are just moving from hand to mouth, raba fini, raba feli. Understand? I see someone having a full-time job, but still they'll fence it on the office, be put them raba. You can't blame them. They can't survive on one income. And So there's a lot that the diaspora and Gambians, there's a lot that you guys have to do.
Yeah.
Because it's easier now to see the problems and how to fix them because you're in a place where there are solutions, right, to our problems. So how do you bring that and bring it back home? It doesn't always have to be through, money. It can be through just giving back by speaking out, like you're saying, talk to people, do the little that you can do, through your music, through your, just something. Just be proactive, not just to talk about stuff.
Because I haven't felt to answer to your question, because I think you even asked a question, whereas us diasporans, we're here, what are we doing?
Exactly.
Answering by saying I'm with the road and some of you gates and answers as well. But for me, I'd say, like, for example, even coming, like, in my opinion, even coming on holiday right now, even Lisa, in a way, it's like being on the ground, learning, seeing how things are, having like talking to people or whatever. In my opinion, somehow, it's a way of investing, or having investment in a way. Because I'm smart ideology, maybe I'm smart idea, or whatever. When you're talking to people or whatever, learning different things or whatever, sharing that information, even from conversation or whatever, you're showing them different, teaching them different, your mannerisms or whatever, from what you've learned here to what you've been exposed to over there. In the coffee, having a way of life, even people around you, for example, because certain conversations you're having, like missing money conversations or business conversations or family conversations or conversations where it's like just the whole point or the whole purpose is to like embetter us or push us forward. In a way time it come in a sense you can look at it investment, because Jagne in the law hamneni was lacking in the
investing in yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, you're investing time, you're investing knowledge or whatever. And then again, I would say, if I'm gonna make it more personal in a way, me from my perspective, in a way, like being an artist as well, because from my artist perspective, I want to be that type of artist where I want to like look at what's going on over there, look at what's going on over here, look at what's going on around the world as well, but then speak from like a Gambian perspective, because man, I'm gonna feel Jagne, or I'm gonna, like, when I'm speaking, also speaking to my people as well. In a way, I'm teaching them, I'm showing them things or whatever.
Right.
There's even proof like in the music, because there's one of like the songs I've released, like Disaster or whatever, or even like the most recent one, the Vladimir Putin. Amut CPN monologue dem bugolo kan dem sumara ka jilan mo sa problem bunya. So it's like violent inyan Japan telen yokasi nyan what. So it's like either way, I could have just been talking about anything and everything, but even just that little through the music, I'm putting like a little message, well, I'm a little advice, well, a little business thing, or a little, you understand, just little bits of information. In a way, I feel like it's investing as well.
Yeah.
Because music right now in this day and age, it's like sort of like how do I explain? It's like a medium of like knowledge or information. We learn so much about different cultures or different countries or different things through music.
When we were in school growing up, American, whenever we come to school talking about the American movies that we're watching, we're learning how to speak English from this. We're learning so many different things.
Pronunciation and all of that. Like, we take it for granted, but the little things, and
I don't want to cut you off. I just want to add, from what I've seen you do as well, another thing is about like just the concept of passion. Because I feel like we talked about how when we approach the many challenges that we face in this country, and from being solution oriented, wherever I've seen you, one, you're working whilst you're here, you're connecting with different Gambian people, and you're working with different people who are on the ground. And that's contributing to the
economy and stuff like that.
Yeah, contribute to the industry, like the industry you're making.
Yeah, to grow it.
Yeah, and on the other end, it's just like talking about the passion aspect, where like just the reason why whatever you do, I support you. It's just that the passion aspect, where we'll be around anyone, different people, and he will talk about his passion for what he does. And I feel like when we talk about how people can see something, like whenever I see little kids and I ask them, okay, what do you want to do? It's about find something you're passionate about, find something you like to do, and you think you can be the best at, and do that. And I think seeing someone else be passionate about something encourages other people to feel like I can be passionate about something as well. Right. Because at the same time as we're in a position where a lot of people are on survival mode, we can also, there's a lot of people who, they have things that they enjoy that can be lucrative, that can be contribute to society, and they need to be encouraged to feel like, you know what, I should be able to go for my passion, whatever it may be.
Nice.
No one
and all of that.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about. When I was
100%,
younger, there's so many people that used to get beat for going to play football.
Dig up.
And now that we see how much money is in football, some people
Project Messi.
Project
Mbappe.
You know what I mean?
Mbappe.
A lot of people right now, parents, I think it's Muhammad and Mbappe play football.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the most talented people who've played with some Gambian exports who've gone abroad and played for good leagues who weren't allowed to cultivate their talent. And I think in certain areas, like it's easy. Like for like what I've done is like just education. It's easily acceptable. It's not revolutionizing society in any way. But then pushing for music, it's like you're doing something here that a lot of people aren't allowed to. And by executing that and doing it well, you're showing people
it's possible
what's
or whatever.
possible.
Facts.
And the fact that if this is someone's passion, they should be encouraged.
100%.
And like literally, I can say myself that I've been inspired by how you go about, talk to different people and connect different people.
Yeah.
Wherever we go, we were laughing about it the other day. He knows someone there. Like, you know what I mean? And that's good to see as a Gambian who doesn't live here anymore. You've been away for so many years, but it's a part of the example of what we're talking about being connected. And you know, even being tapped in, like when we met to even do this, he was like, yo, I was thinking about it already. And
that's why even before we started this podcast, I wanted to, because when you were talking about how we started, so how we introduced this, I wanted to even mention that because some reason this feel like deja vu to me, bro. I swear down, because I remember like years ago when we initially first talking or whatever, we were connected through like, you know, your art as well as mine. Yeah, I understand. You like, you know, you were doing your thing in terms of the photography and whatnot, bringing something new, something different, the red camera and whatever and this and that, like, you know. And I'm gonna give you your flowers to your face. Like at that time, it was something new. You understand? So, just like you're saying, Hamga, just from seeing someone bringing something new, Lord Hamdani come Hamga, is exciting for all of us as a people. It's sort of like draws other people to you, or draws other people to pay attention to that, and then get inspiration from that. So then, like I said, even from that, that's where the initial inspiration came from. Then I started tapping in, seeing how you're doing about, you know, your business, how like, you know, you're doing your setups and whatever, and then what did it lead to? Reaching out, connecting. Okay, cool. Director, artist, inshallah, you know, the whole purpose is like one day we can work together when we link up or whatever, boom. And now God has brought us together now, and when we spoke about it before, but then it's for like a bigger purpose now, which I believe in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, so that's why I don't believe in coincidences personally.
No such thing.
I feel like everything happens for a reason. From the fact that even me and him, like he said, like to him, like he said, every time come soon meet new people or whatever, the friend always will hamga. Meet or whatever, because we go way back. We have that strong, passionate relationship. It's not like the malaham.
This guy was teaching me how to run when I was in
understand?
daycare.
Then go do that. You understand? So it's like, so it's beautiful to see that don't go ahead and like growing up now from him seeing from fun starting having to the point where I'm doing my thing, chasing my dream, and also me to also tapped into him as well, what he's doing in terms of his work, how far he's came and how far he's willing to take himself as well. Like I feel like indirectly it's like we're all motivating each other in a way. It's all inspiring for like each other. Even us being here, like me speaking for myself, even being here for me right now, it's an inspiring and like it's a grateful feeling because, bro,
we're all tapped into the same conscience.
You feel me?
You know,
right.
it's like there's a higher conscience that we're all tapped into.
We're all in the same place, but just looking at this, you did this yourself, and it's one of those things. It's like, you know, as a team, it's one of those things that, you know, we need to encourage more into, you know, young Gambians to do. Like you're mentioning, there's so many people that have something to say. There's so many different perspectives in the country. You being able to do this is going to allow someone to think, okay, this is something that can be done. YouTube is a platform that can be used, Spotify, whatever the platform for the podcast. It's an avenue that people can go in. And just being around this entire place and seeing everything that's here, like I was like,
100%.
You know?
So I'm with that. You know, sometimes this guy Vose, man, you should check him out. He's an amazing guy. He's a South African motivational speaker and an investor. He was saying something that I highly connect to, because he was being very realistic, right? He said you should do the things that you don't like very, very well and make enough money, or be in a position where you do the things that you like doing. And I feel like when it comes to like encouraging people, we need to be realistic. It's tough. There are certain things, even if you're passionate about it, right, it might be the wrong time. And that might not be really something that's going to be fruitful for you. And you might get to a point where it starts becoming resentful to, you feel like you've wasted your time doing something that, even though you're passionate about it, but it's not really bringing anything. Yeah. So do the things that you don't like, get into a position where you can do the things that you like and do them very well.
That's great advice that a wise man gives.
Exactly.
To do what you have to do so that you can do what you want to do.
Exactly.
To get that on the way to school every morning.
Exactly. And I think that's a good approach to now come into talking about, being passionate about the things that you do. Because if you are passionate about the things that you do and you have some kind of a cushion where you're going to fall back on in case things don't go, you do very well. Because just having like a sense of security at the back of your mind will push you to really, really be fully immersed in what it is that you're doing. And people that are, like him, you feel that through their music. People that shoot videos, you see that through their videos because they're pouring their heart into what they're doing. But they have to get to that position first. It's something you have to earn, right? Yeah. The way the universe works is you have to go through the work. You have to sweat before you start enjoying, right? Yeah. Sometimes work can be enjoyable, but before you get to that point where it's got to be, you have to go through. You have to put in the work. Yeah. And
There's a learning curve to everything.
It's a learning curve to everything.
And I think one of the things with passion is that it helps with doing what you don't want to do. Because if you're passionate about something, it pushes you to know that, okay, even during the hard times, there's a purpose to what I'm doing.
Right.
And it goes back to also how I feel about adding value. Mm-hmm. When it comes to, doing business or whatever we're doing in the society, is that we need to, if you see that the point of doing this is to add value, you feel more motivated to get it done.
Right.
And we need to,
Yeah, some people, their motivation is to make money, right? Yeah. Some people, their motivation is to add value to people's lives. Yeah. And I guess what we just need to understand is there are certain universal rules that we need to understand. And Elon said, money is just a medium through goods and services are transacted, right? It's nothing else. The most valuable thing is goods and services, right? It's like if you're stuck in an island and there's no food, a can of sardine is more valuable than $1 million, right? Mm-hmm. So money is just a medium
it's a means to an end, it's not an end.
Exactly. So I guess the more access to capital you have, the more you can transact, the more you can hire people, the more you can buy stuff.
Yeah. I think when it comes to the money aspect and people who want to make money, I understand the making money aspect. When we're talking about like culture building and a society being mentally the right place, not sort of psychologically as a collective in the right place, a collective consciousness being raised, is difficult for the people who just want money to lead that.
Yeah, because the thing about a lot of people are money. It's for them, their means to an end is to get money and feed themselves, right? So it doesn't say anything beyond that. I guess this is why we need to re-educate ourselves on what money really is, like what's the value of money, and understand there's something that is way more valuable than money. It's actually to solve problems. The wealthiest people in the world, right? They solved the problem, and money was a consequence of that solution. So Steve Jobs, Microsoft, all these billionaires, they solved a problem. I think you mentioned that earlier. And that is, I guess, adding value to people's lives. But people need to be taught on how to see things from this perspective, because a lot of people are just on survival mode. They don't really care about adding value to someone else's life. Yeah. They just want to get fed. They want to make sure their families are good. Yeah. And we are unfortunately in a society like that. And I think this is where Gambians that are more aware, that are more exposed, they have a big role to play as well. Yeah.
But I just don't want to get away from the fact that although a lot of Gambians are more exposed globally, there's a lot of Gambians on the ground who have as wide a perspective as anyone. Because the internet, there's a level playing ground, and also those people have more context about Gambia. Like if I wanted to do something here, no matter how great my ideas are, I need to lean on someone who's have as more context here.
And this is where we have to merge.
Maybe contribute. What we mentioned about investing in what people are doing here.
Exactly.
Contribute, but investment doesn't stop at just money. Investment is in, advice,
knowledge,
time, less direction. be a partner in someone's business. Exchange some know-how that because the problem with what I know from, let's say, how things are done in the UK is that it's not applicable to Gambia. The UK colonized Gambia and used a surplus from Gambia to develop the UK. We can't do anything in the way that they did it. So we have our own context that's very unique in the world and is very rarely solved. As far as us Africans, our particular situation hasn't been solved yet. We need to be the people who solve it, because a lot of the other examples that people give, like China, I think South Korea, and all these different people, they all solved those themselves in very unique ways. The China problem was very unique in itself. China used methods that have been provided to them by what they've seen America do or different places, but they devised their own solutions. And I think we need to be thinking about it in that way, where the solution for Gambia isn't necessarily outside of Gambia. I think it is in Gambia. And those of us who have more capital, who have more awareness and stuff like that, we can provide more perspective to that. We can provide more guidance and investment. But I think the people who are going to change this country are in this country. We just need to cultivate those people and build them up to do it.
There's two sides. There's two sides to that, and the reason why I'm always emphasizing back on the diaspora answers. You look at what Dr. Ismail is doing, Ismail Baji, right? He's not from. He's from here, but he studied abroad. Yeah. He made most of his money abroad, and then he came back
with an idea.
And he actually implemented it, and that implementation is now
benefiting
the people. And this is what I'm trying to say. Even though you have people with ideas in the Gambia, they still lack resources.
Facts.
And we don't have. If you have resources, then you have all the power to actually take action. And the guys with the resources, most of the resources and the ideas are the guys that are outside. And the reason why I'm saying this is we have to merge in a sense, because Gambians locally here know the environment more than you. You have the resources. You know exactly what it is that would work for Gambia. Now bring people on board that know the communities, right? That understand, okay, if you do this, it might work. If you do that, that might not work. Yeah. So, adjust yourself this way. You have the raw knowledge and the resources. You just need someone, I guess, locally here to guide you. And this is why I said diasporans, if they come together, they could actually make a huge impact here for the best.
And we need to tap into the knowledge base, because I understand the diaspora aspect, and I think we stress that as a country, because we see that, like, people look at diaspora and people who come up from outside as people who have everything more than like people who are here. But I feel like the thing that's really going to be the gold mine in Gambia is tapping into the people who are here. And I think even the diasporans, they don't necessarily know what's best for Gambia. They have an idea, but I think people in Gambia who are living through the experiences probably know the intricacy of the problem so much that they can come up with unique solutions that might work better for this country. And what needs to be tapped into, okay, what do they like? Resources and exposure maybe to like a plurality of like things that have been tried that didn't work and why it didn't work. So what do we need to do? Education, information, which involves access to broadband. And another thing is investment. And it's about, the thing with, small and medium-sized businesses, there needs to be an index or something that allows Gambian people to be able to angel invest into small businesses. And by having that, where businesses that are vetted and people that are trading, could be something small. Someone that's doing something, just something small, and then they want to grow, they're looking for investment. Someone in the diaspora can go through the thing and they can be like, I'm interested in agriculture. I really like what this person is doing in agriculture.
Let me put some.
Let me put some money, invest some money, but also let me provide them with me as someone who could be their partner. I can, the problem, the context, you have the market knowledge. In your execution, I can help with the parts that you don't know.
Right.
And support in that way, because the Gambian dream should be that Gambians in Gambia can change Gambia. It shouldn't be that Gambians have to go outside to come change Gambia. And in order to change our mindset, we must cultivate the talent that we have on the ground.
I hear you. That's a point. That's a good point. But then again, we also have to realize that us Gambians in Gambia, the Gambians in Gambia as well, like, even though like you said, all of the answers and the solutions are here, but I feel like somehow a lot of it is limited. Like the access in terms of like, what we really need in order to make a huge difference is limited. So that's why somehow like the diasporans in a way, they're more at an advantage. because most of them, let's say, they probably even grew up within the same circumstance, in the same situation as the people here. But then from those circumstances, they were privileged maybe to go out, and now they seem different. So from that, they came back now and then be able to implement it here, because I'm going to come in an environment like for time, maybe for 5-10 years or whatever, and you're so used to that way of life or whatever that it even clouds you from even being able to see from
it's
outside.
hard for you to see beyond that.
Exactly. Yeah. And even though you might even be the same mind, the same brain, you understand, but then it's just because of the environment and the four walls or the corners you find yourself boxed in. However, like, you know, if at all you have that chance to go out, come back, it will be you, the same person, but then, you know, just a different perspective, different mind. So you could even come back by putting a chabane, yo, same things, no than chabe things. That's why different, obviously. Because you're from Naked, maybe young and chabe Gambian, maybe Hamga young doctor, like, you know, struggling just to get by. But now it's more of like you're coming with like a different perspective. Come, okay, the man Duffy Biffy. Wow, how long you're not there for 5 years or whatever. Okay, like, how about I'm on you with a different ideology? How can I get from this place to that place easier? Boom. Fourth thing, maybe we need to start taxi business or whatever. Like, you know, it can even start from small scale. Bus route, you know, I'm trying to say, do bus stops or whatever. Come. So somehow I get what Gando is saying, and I get what you're saying as well. It's like the dire sponsors, there should be some sort of connection because
it needs to be a bilateral thing.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like it should both work hand in hand. Because same way, like, yes, we are, as we like the dire sponsors, say that category of people that are out there, like obviously they're like at an advantage in a way because maybe you're chabanen or I'm in that exposure or whatever. Right. So maybe conversation like, or maybe I'm just know like Jagne like a fee. Me no time you make a fee. Maybe I'm on that initiative or I'm on that mind because
you want be more halalifin. And
the thing is,
look at it this way, Look at it like a maze, right? Someone in the maze and someone looking at the maze from outside. You see the entrance and the exit, and you can kind of from outside like figure out the way. But someone that's in the maze don't really see the end. It's like try and error.
Their perspective is narrow.
Exactly. So if you're in here, your perspective is very, very narrow because you're experiencing the problem.
No, but imagine the person in the maze was solving the maze with the guidance of the person.
And this is the point that I'm trying to make.
But that's what I would.
That's the merge that I'm trying to say.
I'm with you. I don't disagree with your point. I think the thing was with how you said it. This is what I took from it. Maybe it wasn't your intention. Was that the diaspora is the most important in this. And for me, I think in order to change our collective consciousness, because that's everything, it's the mindset of the nation, in how we view ourselves, what can be done, and how we view this country, is that we need to try and cultivate talent from Gambia in Gambia. And that can, make people, the kids growing up in the next generation, view Gambia as a place that they can, with enough opportunities for them.
Right.
The thing about us is we're one of the smallest countries, yes, but we also have one of the highest representation in the migrant crisis. So many people are taking back way. There's a reason for that, and we can't solve that back way like that from a mind state by someone coming from outside and solving all the problems. Because people are just gonna say, okay, he had to go to out and he came and solved it.
We're trying to be like him.
Yeah, they're gonna be. I'm trying to be like him. I'm going.
Yeah.
That doesn't, and so our problems are not just functional. They're like psychological. And from a functional perspective, yes, like come through, you worked at this company, you have this degree, you have this amount of money, of course come and build a country. That is something that can work for solving one problem and a few problems, but not all problems.
Agreed.
Not even all problems, but like not one of the main ones, which is that we look at our country as somewhere we can love, that we can decide to contribute to in a real way. The reason why I did that thing that I did was because of the fact that I had left so much that I appreciate this country more after I left. I understood how good it is to be here from a social perspective, how good it is to be connected with so many different people, the communal aspect. I understood that how good that was. And I think when I was living here, when I was younger, I didn't understand it. I was just like everyone. I'm trying to go. When I was told I'm going to England, I was happy.
Yanko,
exactly.
Me.
And you know when I realized
you're in here.
You know when I realized it?
Exactly.
On my first day in England, I realized, I thought to myself, okay, this is what the environment I'm in, this is where I'm living, and how is that gonna look like tomorrow, the week after, the month after, the year after. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm here today. If I just wake up I can just go play football with my friends. I go do this. I can speak to different people. There were so many older people who passed down knowledge to me. So many people who supported me that didn't have to. So many different things that have happened to me that have just been by other people just being kind. That I'm like, yo, like, I don't have that over here. Where someone will look at me and just be like, immediately think, oh yeah, like you're just like me. I don't have that as much. And I'm saying
jungle, there's no pride.
Yeah. And
it's just every man for themselves.
Everyone's doing what they have to do, because there it's like they're running the rat race. Nobody has time to be doing certain things. And in a way, there's so many good qualities about this country we need to maintain, and so much that we need to improve.
Yeah.
And we need to just to end on that on my end, it's just like, yeah, we need to invest in Gambia, man, and not just with money and everything, like you said, with passion, with a presence, with conversation,
even the attitude. I feel like even behaviors.
Yeah.
Like maybe come investment, but let's say, because you see when you say education as well, I feel like education can be broad in a way. It just don't mean to be a school, go to class or whatever.
More than education. It covers way more than that.
Exactly. Or maybe even more than like education in terms of how we think, how we see things, or how look at it. Because whatever, you'd see people like fam, all walks of life, fam. They don't even speak proper English or whatever, but then they in certain jobs where they doing it, and you're thinking, raw. How did they get onto doing those jobs? Because they were trained for that. So it just made me think, and also gave me like a different perspective. More nit domi adam no muntemel whatever a certain person is doing, you could do as well. It don't mean they like they're more privileged or whatever. Training not required. You understand? Let's say I don't know how to drive a plane or whatever. Why come someone they can apprentice pilot for like the next 5 years? Well, 5 years somebody nasa. But let's say like for a couple months or whatever, every day religiously, I'm like, watching him, learning or whatever. Just with training, I could be like a good pilot where I wouldn't even need to go pilot school.
Exactly. And this is what Taf said. Taf said one of the things that entrepreneurs should be before they even venture into starting their own business is apprenticeship.
Exactly.
You have to be. You have to learn. You have to be an apprentice.
Like finding a role model or finding someone you can learn from.
There's no shortcut.
That's the
thing. There's no shortcut, and there's multiple ways we can look at it in the Gambian perspective, where we do want things to just happen immediately, instant gratification.
Yeah.
But then again, sometimes you don't really blame them because of their circumstance. They're on survival mode, right?
Everyone's looking for that.
Everyone is just looking for that quick thing. They don't have time to be an apprentice for years because they don't really have anything to lean on. They have to make something
out of themselves.
And I guess it just comes back to the mindset and the attitude towards just accumulating wealth. And the example that I can give is Senegalese people are some of the best apprentices you can find is Senegalese. If you go to Senegal, nagis ne kena mungi nek ak bossam for like 10 years. Just being hale bu ndaw mungi nek ci atelier.
Thank you.
Mungi janga mungi muñ. Understand nga dem bi magge fofu non janga lu mo xam yépp. Understand nga? Eventually mu start own thing. Usually their boss, some boss they lend their support. Because as a leader, what you want is you want to grow who's going to succeed you. You don't always want to be in a position of leadership. So if you bring in someone under you, at the end of the day, you want better for them. You want them to have to take where you stop and move it further. And I guess we also have to address the guys that are already in leadership positions to consider that what they're doing is to kind of succeed them. They're raising the next generation of leaders, right? So if you're oppressing them, you're just putting them down and you're not giving them access to resources and knowledge, right? You're harming yourself. You're harming your generation to come. Because a lot of businesses, Fini, if the owner dies, that's the end of the business. There's nobody to replace them because there's no structure. There's no structure to pass down knowledge and pass down information, to pass down inheritance. And usually, if you pass it down to your son, they don't really know anything about it.
We've even seen in proper companies where like it was started maybe by the father or whatever, well renowned in the country or whatever, then it get passed down to like the family members or the sons or whatever, and then they probably mismanage it or whatever. Just like you said in it. So I think just to add to that point as well, like just to encourage that sort of conversation of just like learning. Come learning, it just don't have to be restricted to just sort of just being in school or whatever.
Being in a classroom.
Exactly, and just be willing to even listen to each other.
Yeah.
Because one thing for now, like the effect as Gambians as well come, it's so hard for a Mak to want to listen to Waraka or Hale.
The ego.
It's so hard. The ego
thing.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, even because we even see it with our leaders today, for example, like. Or like older generation in certain like environments or certain like organizations or whatever, they probably think that because they're older, they've been here longer, they know more.
Yeah.
Like no one's disagreeing like what you know or whatever, but then again, like at least be open to sort of hear what the next person has to say, even though like they're probably not of age or whatever, or probably even half your age, because at the end of the day, the same brain that God gave you. You don't know what he's blessed with the other person,
right?
And also to understand that the fact that we're all within the same country, under the same sun, but the struggles are similar, bro. If not similar, the same. You feel me? Come, take him in your home, my life on and off or whatever. Now it's having a problem. I thought it was just this area. Went to the beach, met like one of my brothers telling me mom's like kind of thing same way. So it's like, you feel me? So I'd say, but people with generators or inverters, they're calm in it. Like they only like get affected partly, but the majority, this is like a problem where we're all so it's like that's just like an analogy I'm giving. In a way, like an example.
We do have shared experiences that we all share, regardless of class
and even diaspora or not diaspora.
Exactly. And I think these are some of the factors that actually unite us as Gambians. Because we do have a shared experience. Where like now actually them say kon bi ñepp ko yek. Understand nga ñeppay gëna boy nawet bi moy lolu rek. Understand. So these are the shared experiences we connect on. And sometimes you see like, a kid from a wealthy family just hanging out with a kid from not so wealthy. And they don't really look at their backgrounds to decide whether I'm going to hang out with you. Because we do have shared experiences.
And I think our culture also frowns upon that, and I like the fact that it is. Because there's that aspect where
it's because we have a lot of shared experiences, but you go to certain neighborhoods like Newson time. I guess like mun nga gena dem si kiri anti bi ni nga dem chop, understand nga, wala nga gena ak sa boy nga dem guys en kir ngeen foy aji mango chop. But now the kids don't even know their neighbors, right? Talk less of even interacting with these neighbors. And these are some of the directions we are heading, and like you were saying, these are something we do need to put into consideration, that we don't want to lose this. I think that's what makes Gambia unique. This is what basic people things. Talk about. Gambia mun nga fa dem si any kër nit sumo andal la o nga chop. So bëggé nan ndox nga dem si këri jamu nga la ci ndol la ko may. And this is something that the sub-region talks about. Senegalese, Guineans, Sierra Leoneans. They respect us for that. But in some areas we are losing it because we're isolating ourselves. We're becoming very individualistic, right? It's about me and my compound. Like kids don't even go out anymore. They don't even play in the streets anymore, right? If you go to certain communities, and we're losing that, and I think that brings a lot of problems as well. We're becoming a very individualistic community. The big empathy society. Understand that?
And even the relative peace that we have.
The relative peace that we have.
Because I think when we're younger, we learn a lot of conflict resolution skills.
Yeah.
When we're younger, when you're jaying fair,
exactly.
You might go to get your money, and this guy's trying to divide it in a way that's not correct.
Exactly.
So you have to learn how to manage that. I mean, real. Like, or you go and look at a casserole, and this person's taking 10, and he's telling you only have 3.
Exactly.
Like all these different things, and I think the main thing is that one thing I enjoy is the fact that a lot of us have so many different perspectives in the country, but one of the things is our ability to find harmony within that.
Yeah. And
like our willingness, like young people, to like actually listen to other people's perspectives and take something from that. And I'm really hopeful for where we can go. Yeah. And I'm genuinely, like, every time I come here, there's so many young people here that are inspiring me, so many older people than me that are inspiring me. And I think one of the things we should lean is just lean on each other. Even forget the separation of diaspora or this. and all these different separations with stratification that we separate ourselves by, let's just literally say, like, you know, let's just lean on each other, learn from each other, support each other. And you know, another thing is, you mentioned this thing about you know, the older generations, and one thing I think is like really important, especially with what we're doing as far as going forward with the country, is that there are so many older people that can provide us with so much advice and so much perspective
and wisdom.
Because the thing with us is we shouldn't start from point zero. There have been things that have been done in the 80s, in the 90s, after the coup, during the 2000s. May not have been things that are flashy that we see, but there are things that can help us in how we direct ourselves going forward. And we need to tap into that human capital of the older generation, so that our ideas that we're coming up with can add extra perspective that we don't have.
You don't have to invent the wheel, just improve on it.
That saves us the
a lot of
years
time.
of trial and error.
Exactly.
You know? And yeah, so
we just have to have the right mindset, because this you know, Magi Temet, if you want to get anything from them, be it knowledge, you do have to approach them in the right mindset. You know, respect is at the core of our you know, society. Mag soko nanga so say about a reg boy, you know, then la take a board. Whatever they know, they will not share it with you. And I think this is why sometimes it comes at our own detriment, where Magi Temet, you know, they digital respect to a point, but
it clouds a lot of things.
It doesn't allow some honest conversation.
It doesn't allow
some real knowledge to be transferred. And I think when it comes to knowledge, there's no ego, there's none of this respectability politics.
Well, in Parliament or whatever, fam, you see, exactly, in Parliament you'd see like a younger person that would have a whole president or whatever.
And that's how it should be.
Exactly. And it's like, and what I like about that is like, it's nothing personal or whatever, but then it's like there are different voices like that are representing the masses.
Right.
That like they're representing the people, or having like the Labour or Democrat, this and that. So kune come get campaign on Sabopa. But in terms of, you know, maybe like, or let's say one thing I'd love, maybe even something to grow from this, is like having a platform where the youth or like the younger generation would be able to have that direct conversation with the older. For example, like, you know, see how you said when Taf was here, like, I'm sure there's a lot of like younger generation or younger people that would want to have like a proper, maybe like informal conversation with him. Like not know in terms of challenge or whatever. They why pull that some sort of questions or how many come home. Like, how would this and how would that? It would be like sort of like come see Solena can be the attire. You know them type of conversation where the tanga come in and get query. Why come there's still decorum, you know what I mean? Like it's not
it's about us both learning from each other,
but
arguing against
I understand. So I feel like
we're losing that though. We're losing that, and that breaks my heart, because come no ko say kampe biya am na yene façon waxtan yo len de waxtan boy they turn into fight.
Thank you.
Understand
still da nga xam
but things de me mu sera boy respect bi be legi mu fa understand nga fo joge man understand nga fan la joge at the end of the day mu na dama tok ma reflect ma xam nga ma janga ci yo nga janga ci man, but it still doesn't break our relationship. 100%. Understand that? But now it's changing. It's man.
They take things personal.
They take things personal.
I think soon nekedi watan young fogne watan me is about me being right or you being right. We've already lost. We're both wrong.
Thank you.
It should be a thing where we're having a discussion, we're putting a discussion on the forefront, and at the end of it, we can disagree, we can do anything, but let us leave the discussion with more knowledge individually than leave with just, I'm going to hold on to what I'm saying and be defensive.
Because the main one is, I'm going to Babi somehow, the way they do their thing is, you have to rate it in a way, because even them lot, even if they disagree, they can hate each other. Like, for example, come America, Chinese or whatever, come Holland, come. Everyone knows they don't like each other, but like you would see them when it's time for them to appear.
There's a common goal.
You know what I'm saying? They have a common understanding that's gonna benefit like the masses or everyone in general. But deep down, I'm gonna come America any chance, but I'm get blamed that for. I'm off my own. Come, you feel what I'm trying to say? It's kind of mad. It's funny, but then again, it's crazy. Come lum bun, but like even when it comes to that, like they always find like an area where Munanyo agree to disagree while tap okay dumbo your name, but we'll still be able to shake hands for the camera or shake hands for the greater good of both parties. So let's say even if we can apply that here, come even if I can come new or whatever, then I'm soon come let's say even they could interview and do is it aka they could be in a way, but it's a rather you can express your frustration, but like the wording can be different in a way. Hamga don't come across in a disrespectful way. Benga hamne come nisla buge tontu sa, da fla buga tontu. Why come on, so if you come wahbit come the fahala tahasuf to so na buge tontu sa danyo yoga ne asmoko wale tontu lina ini wad benen wah what time den ko yemuna daw.
Exactly.
You know, realize that
and Dr.
conversation what time so like they listening.
Exactly. Dr. Baji said he observed something about Gambians. Even if you're telling Gambians the truth, you have to sugarcoat it.
Wow, come on, funga masla. Thank you.
If you don't, it's not even about what you're saying anymore. Now it's about how you said.
But how about we have that one platform, which is this platform?
This is the platform, bro.
That's what I'm telling you, bro.
The daily dose.
You feel me? That's what I'm telling you. Like, boy, because at the end of the day, it's for the greater good, boy.
Yeah.
Come. Can Daniel if we can get if we can or whatever. Hamga Monte no more toge Luma Jagne and or whatever come and vice versa. And all from what? Just conversation. Just talking, bro. Because all of the time it come, we have to sort of like give each other the cheer we also deserve as well. Hamga.
There should be there should be elements of respect. You know, even if I don't agree with what you're saying,
but still
do mala disrespect. Understand me? I just agree to disagree, like you said. You know, and we can still move on.
No more about openness and curiosity. Openness more than much smaller diglo from a small perspective.
Exactly.
The more understand your perspective, you can respond to your perspective. No lower than again.
Understanding my perspective.
Yeah, you body didn't dig for understanding. You dig for reply. It's important for us to cultivate an environment where we understand each other. Because you body didn't overcrowd your perspective with what it is, and it's just good to just listen and be curious. Try to learn something from someone. Even the person you disagree with the most, there's something to learn from them. I know a lot of people don't like hearing that because it's not what our natural inclination to be. So disagree again at go. You know what I mean? But it's a conflict and that's not the best way for us.
Because it's not taking anyone further.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? We're just breaking each other apart.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But on another end, overdoing that aspect of it where it's like maslaha bi upa, the fact that you stagnate. As a society, we wouldn't grow.
We become too sensitive.
Yeah, we become too sensitive.
People are now entitled to being masla.
Yeah.
Because if you're not masla,
and also a lot.
But then like it's important to have that platform where even so masla the amsa. Why is it dinga them a poke the
bear?
No, exactly. No one wanna find a motor come on hold full style the people they come because digga man no more feel like bro, even though man's in the diaspora or whatever, but bro, like when I come Gambia, I like to be outside. Like, I haven't got tapped in, I haven't come home. Allow the artist thing or whatever. For me, I feel like your reputation is more important than your occupation, bro. You feel me? Like occupation, we work okay, or whatever. Why I come, how you are within your people, or when you go out or whatever. It has more meaning.
There's a sociological text that says status is more important than income when it comes to class.
You feel me?
Agreed.
Yeah.
You feel me?
100%.
Yeah, sure.
That is so true.
100.
Yeah, that is so true.
And I completely agree with it because, but like lower regla and
I understand.
And I think like Masal Habi, like it's one end of the spectrum, and the other end is like where we see the conflict, taking things personally and disagreeing, and they're not disagreeing. Disagreement is good, but like fighting each other.
Wow,
there's a middle ground where we can try and be open to the truth, try and be truthful, and if you're coming from that perspective, nobody will take anything to heart. Because they wouldn't think it's an attack, they would think it's, this is what you're saying.
That's just your point of view on things.
Yeah, that's your point of view, and this is what you're saying.
You have to accept it.
Exactly.
If you don't accept it, fine, but you don't have to make a big deal out of it and put them in a label like, okay, this person because of their point of view on things, right? We all have different point of views, like you said. Our experiences are different. What my experience is different from yours, is different from his. Even though you guys have known each other since God knows when, your perspectives are still different. I'm sure there are certain things that you disagree on,
100%.
Right?
No, 100%. And that exists. And,
you're both right, you're both wrong. Who cares?
But the thing is, those differences are what sort of allows us
how
to
is the
learn from each
implication
other.
In society? Like, what your difference is? How is the implication in society? Is it in a negative or in a positive way? Because we are the society. So what I do individually do have an effect on what happens in society, even if I don't see.
Can't all be the same person.
Exactly.
That wouldn't work.
Right.
But
so what we can takeaway here would be is knowledge, be objective, be subjective. It's complicated, right? Depends on your experience.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, is when something is objectively true, that should be the fundamental on where we start, right? Regardless of how we feel.
Yeah.
Because I could feel about something. If for example, Stoner says, okay, this is a fact, right? I could feel indifferent about it. But if what he said is the fact,
the fact is the
fact. The fact is the fact.
Facts.
Right?
Your emotions might affect
my judgment
to be how much you see objective or
subjective.
Subjective, exactly.
Yeah. Because that's just my opinion on it, right? But it doesn't still change the fact that what you said is a fact. Like if something is by evident, it's true by evidence. There's nothing we can do about it, right?
100%.
And we should not allow our own personal understanding of it to cloud our judgment.
Or society.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the issues we're facing, where we just take everything personal. It's through what I see it, and that's that. So if you don't subscribe to my own belief on a particular thing, then you are against me, right? Instead, I could see it like, okay, you are arriving at a different perspective on the same thing. You're just seeing it through different eyes. I need to understand that you have your own eyes. You're your own individual, and you see things differently, and that is evident as we grow. The older you get, most of the time, the more you differ on things. Younger people don't really have so many differences. We're just on vibes, right? But once you start accumulating knowledge, start experiencing things, your perspective broadens, right? But how do we overcome that challenge? Because it is a challenge. That the older we get, the more we see things differently. But how can we cultivate those differences to still arrive at the same solution?
But would you say that, for example, just looking at our elders, that our elders are more different from each other than we as individual young people are different from each other? Because I think we have a lot more information at our disposal.
Okay, I'm going to look at it like this, yeah? The younger you are, the more common you guys generally are. And if you go towards the median, there's a lot of differences. But if you look at like the magmagi, they have more things in common than they have differently. But it's at some point in our age where there's a lot of diversity, right? And this age group is the one that is having the highest impact in society.
They're the ones where innovation comes from.
Exactly. And this is what really determines a society's status at some point. Because if we allow our differences to really cloud our judgment instead of focusing on what's important, we're messing up the society.
Exactly. We're hustling backwards.
With that being said,
we'll wrap it up here. Catch us next time. This has been long, man.
Thank you very much for having me.
But say though, like I enjoyed this honestly, and
I feel like he took a nap or something in between.
Bro, this took too long.
No, definitely.
I think this is my longest episode so
it has
far.
to be, man. I told people I'd meet them in like 3 hours ago, bro.
I just been ignoring it, but still like. But I feel like come to Mokome, everything happens for a reason.
But from what time?
You know what I mean? What I need to be important, because what I need to be